Imagine visiting the Chelsea Hotel at its opening in 1884 and during some of its most iconic historical moments. It will come as no surprise to many of you that I spent a lot of time at the Chelsea Hotel in New York City, and I even stayed there a number of times. The experience was truly unforgettable, and I spent a lot of time daydreaming about being there in the late 1800s and at various times throughout the early to mid 1900s. And chances are you do too. Here's why. Located at 222 West 23rd Street in Manhattan, this 12-story red brick marvel with its wrought iron balconies and Victorian Gothic flair was designed to feel like a bold experiment in communal living, which it was, and it later evolved into a chaotic cradle of creativity. As you can see, the facade is clad in red brick, a hallmark of Victorian architecture, accented by terracotta detailing that adds warmth and texture. The most eye-catching feature is the series of delicate, flower-ornamented wrought iron balconies that wrap around the upper floors, softening the building's imposing verticality. These balconies, supported by slender columns, create a rhythmic pattern across the facade, offering residents outdoor space and a perch to observe the bustling 23rd Street below, which way back when was a hub of the theater district. The steeply pitched roof, dotted with dormer windows and chimneys, completes the mysterious silhouette, evoking a sense of grandeur and romance. Now let's begin our journey to see what it was like to be there during its debut and key events. In 1884, you arrive as the Chelsea opens its doors for the first time. At the time of its completion, it is the tallest building in New York City. The air buzzes with optimism as architect Philip Hubert's vision unfolds, a cooperative where workers, artists, and dreamers live side by side. The lobby is grand, yet welcoming, with high ceilings and intricate tile work. You ascend the wide central staircase. Elevators are still a novelty, and you reach your apartment, which is one of 100 varied units. The top floor artist studios hum with painters at work, their easels catching the sunlight streaming through the oversized windows. The staircase at the Chelsea Hotel is one of its most iconic and enduring features, a physical and symbolic thread weaving through its 140-year history. This architectural centerpiece is more than just a means of moving between floors. It's a stage, a gallery, and a silent witness to the hotel's eclectic past. The staircase also played a practical role in a building where elevators were notoriously unreliable. So imagine all the residents and guests lugging guitars and canvases and typewriters up its steps, and their voices bouncing off the walls. Now let's step outside. At the time of its completion, there were horse-drawn carriages clattering along 23rd Street, as the theater district's energy pulses nearby. Now let's fast forward to April of 1912. The Titanic has sunk, and imagine you're in the lobby as second-class survivors shuffle in, dazed and grieving. The Chelsea, now a luxury hotel since its co-op days faltered in 1905, offers temporary shelter. The staff is moving quickly, arranging cots and blankets in the once opulent parlors. You could overhear hushed stories of icy waters and lifeboats, the survivors' faces etched with the loss and the horrors of what they've seen. The hotel's warmth, literal and figurative, provides solace, its walls already soaking up layers of the human experience. Now fast forward to November of 1953 and imagine you are a resident, and that Chelsea is a bohemian haven under manager Stanley Bard's quirky reign. You pass poet Dylan Thomas in the hall, his voice gravelly from drinking whiskey and reciting verse. One night he stumbles back from the White Horse Tavern, where he collapses in room 205. The next day, word spreads. Dylan Thomas is in a coma. Whispers and worry fill the air. Later you find out that he died from pneumonia and not from the mythic drinking binge. The air grows heavy. Poets and painters gather in the lobby, reciting his lines during a vigil. The creaky floors and peeling wallpaper seem to be mourning with the residents, who grieve for the loss of the great genius. Imagine the year is 1966, and you're in the Chelsea as Andy Warhol films Chelsea Girls. The lobby buzzes with his entourage. Edie Sedgwick's laugh cuts through the din. Cameras roll in dimly lit rooms, capturing residents in unscripted chaos. You dodge cables and spotlights. The hotel's decay, cracked plaster and flickering lights add to the film's raw edge. Guests grumble about the intrusion, but it's kind of thrilling too. The Chelsea's soul is being broadcast to the world. Now let's jump ahead to October of 1978, and that Chelsea is a raw and gritty place. Punk rock echoes through the halls, and you're jolted awake by sirens. Downstairs, chaos erupts. Nancy Spungen lies dead in room 100. She was stabbed by her boyfriend Sid Vicious of the Sex Pistols. The news ripples fast. Guests peer from doorways, many of whom are not surprised due to the hotel's growing reputation for housing people on paths to destruction. Imagine smelling the stale cigarette smoke and hearing the clatter of the police radios. Despite all this, you continue your stay at the Chelsea, and months later, you hear that Sid Vicious overdosed in the same room, and the tragedy cements the Chelsea's dark allure. Thank goodness the walls of the Chelsea cannot speak. Each era at the Chelsea blends grandeur with grit. The air carries paint, whiskey, and a little bit of desperation. The staircases creak under countless footsteps. You're not just in the Chelsea, you're in a living, breathing archive of art, loss, and rebellion. Now imagine sitting in the lobby of the Chelsea, and everyone and everything disappears around you. And it's midnight, and you're in there all alone, until you see some ghosts walking by, including those of Dylan Thomas, Janis Joplin, Leonard Cohen, the New York Dolls, Patti Smith, and Robert Mapplethorpe, Quentin Crisp, Bob Dylan and Allen Ginsberg, Dee Dee Ramone, Edie Sedgwick, Andy Warhol, Marilyn Monroe and Arthur Miller, Mark Twain, Sid and Nancy, Mick Jagger, and many, many more. A parade of some of the most unusual and creative people that the world has ever known have walked through the halls of the Chelsea Hotel. After closing in 2011 for renovations, the Chelsea reopened in 2022 as a luxury boutique hotel under new ownership. The Chelsea Hotel's history is a tapestry of creativity, chaos, and resilience, reflecting the evolving spirit of New York City itself. From its utopian origins to its rock and roll heyday, it remains an enduring symbol of some of the best and worst that New York City has to offer. So, what do you think of the history and design of the Chelsea Hotel? Have you ever stayed there? If not, and if you could, would you? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Kindly remember to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Please check out the links below to learn how to support my research and productions. Kindly be kind to all of our fellow Earthlings, and please do not harm them. And do yourself a favor and go to a local shelter and adopt a cat or a dog or both. You and they will be very glad that you did. Until next time, I wish you safe travels on all your journeys.